Hello, my friends. Okay, back to school is almost here. It's unbelievable, but it is. I wanted to walk you through one of my favorite ways to teach children how to love art and to come into your classroom ready to draw, ready to paint, create amazing works of art. And that's through understanding how children process art in the terms of drawing. Like what stage are they at, and how you can kind of identify where your students are at, not only in specific grade levels, but just throughout the grade bands. And so I love teaching children how to draw. It's what I knew best as an art teacher. And what I recognized is just the differences between a kindergartner, a third grader, and even a fifth grader. Little kinders, they come into an art room, and some of them have absolutely no concept of what they're drawing. You can have an amazing guided drawing lessons for a fish, teaching children all sorts of things, and they'll draw a fish, and some of them will have no idea that they actually drew a fish. They were just following instructions. I think this is so funny because really, that child is just kind of an emerging artist. They're not really sure of the context of drawing. And you often see that with TK, or children who are very young. And so for those children, I rarely do any kind of directed drawing or any kind of drawing in general. I just let them explore. But once children get to be in kindergarten, they tend to get to be of an age where they want to learn how to draw. They want to learn how to draw a dog or a cat or a house or a tree or flowers or fish. And you can see their enthusiasm for really learning. In fact, I often would say that my kindergartners and my first graders were the most eager learners because they have such a desire to draw something that they're familiar with. And so using templates in this grade level, it really helps. Whether you're drawing a portrait and you give just a template for their head shape, then they can do everything else. As they move into first grade, you start to teach them how to draw just a basic shape. So there's like levels. Teaching drawing kind of builds and builds and builds. So I'm going to walk you through just where I use templates and where I use guided drawings in relationship to the lesson itself. Now, a lot of people think of guided drawings and using templates as a means to get to an end that all the children's art looks similar. And a lot of art teachers have a negative feeling about this. But I say don't worry about it. I'm going to walk you through why that's okay, number one, and how you can actually move beyond that. So this is a perfect example of a kindergarten lesson that uses a shape to create a leaf. So the purpose of this project is not to learn how to draw a leaf. The purpose of this project most likely is to teach children how to mix red and yellow to create orange, right? So when you know the intention, the purpose of the lesson, like what is this lesson supposed to teach in the big scheme of your art program, then you have a much more relaxed position about getting to that learning opportunity. So in this case, children make painted paper, and then they use a little template to create a leaf that they can then articulate in their work of art a little bit later on. And then this is a guided drawing of a little hedgehog face. Now, you can have the children look at a magazine or like a picture, a photo, and draw a hedgehog, but for kindergartners, that's a very difficult thing to do. So when they learn how to draw lines, create a shape that looks like a face, they still might not know what they've drawn, but once they put it into context with the body and all the leaves, it starts to make sense and they're so proud. But that's the very beginning stage. Now, as children move up the grade levels, they already know a bunch of things because you've taught them. So in like second or third grade or even fourth grade, children don't need templates to draw a leaf. They already have it in their mind what they like, right? So if you provide examples in the form of a handout or by drawing a few on the whiteboard or showing a slideshow of different leaves, then kids go, oh yes, it's not just a leaf that has two curved sides. There's so many different styles of leaves. Now, children at this age love to be inspired by looking at a handout, which I think is a great tool to have in your art room as lessons. When you have a lesson plan and you have handouts, I think that's so valuable because then the artist can pick and choose what they want to draw. And you'll get artists who only draw one type of leaf, and that's their preference. They might love that unity that, is really kind of an advanced skill, right? Or they might like a lot of variety, which is what the goal of this lesson is. And so really the ultimate goal of this lesson is not even in color or line or shape or whether they can draw a leaf or a tree. It's all about movement. Can we create a work of art that expresses movement and weather? Like, how do we know what feeling do we get from this lesson? So you can see that having the drawing or the work of art look similar to their neighbors is not really the point. The point is, how can you create a work of art that shows movement? And let's use all the knowledge that we have, that we've learned so far to get to this point. Now, as the children get older, and this is very common around 10 years old, children like to draw things that look realistic. And so they'll practice a lot, and you might find that you'll have a lot of students who like to draw a particular thing, like maybe it's horses or cars, and you have a hard time convincing them to draw anything else, right? I mean, we've all had those artists. That's because they reach an age where they just really want to master something. So this project is, again, leaves, and we're mixing colors using textured and like shaving cream foam and all sorts of things. That's the fun part, but it's really to get to the point where the children, the artists, draw the leaves through observation. And this is the kind of like the ultimate goal, I think, in elementary school, is to teach children how to look at something and identify the lines and the shapes that make up that subject. And in this case, that's what the artists are expected to do, to either look at a slideshow of different leaf shapes or go outside and grab their own leaves and create, select which leaves that they would like to draw, and to really study the contour line of a leaf. So you can see they might have a project. Your wall might be filled with very similar looking art, but it's a very detailed and extreme effort put in by students. So don't dismiss it when they all look the same, which I know you don't. But okay, now here's a project that combines everything. It's like, okay, it has everything in it. And the goal of this lesson, it's not really just to make painted paper. It's not to use a directed guided drawing technique to draw this squirrel. It's not really to draw leaves, but the lesson is all about putting a bunch of elements together to create a work of art that shows not only color and repetition in the leaves, but also the depth and the perception of depth. And there's lots of texture with the tissue paper and the pipe cleaners. So it's really one of those projects that teaches children almost every element of art, but it starts with a directed drawing of a squirrel. So is that a bad thing? No. It's just to get the party started, my friends. And so that's how I look at a guided drawing, is an assistant for you that meets kids where they're at. Now here's the truth. You might not have children in your 5th or 6th grade class who can individually draw leaves. They might need to use a template. And is that a bad thing? Of course not. You just meet the child where they're at, saying, we have templates available if you'd like to trace, because tracing templates is a skill in and of itself. Learning how to, have you ever noticed how difficult tracing is for younger kids? Like they'll put a template on a piece of paper and they'll try to trace around it, but they'll literally not touch the tracer. They'll just kind of go around it, which is fine, but they don't really know the art of tracing something, and that's a skill. And then of course, cutting skill. So important, especially in this day and age when kids don't really use their hands for a whole lot other than just kind of texting people. Here are a few more just to round up the guided drawing experience that you can create in your classroom and feel really good about it. This is a kindergarten lesson. It's learning how to draw a very simple shape using a contour line method of drawing the eye and then the trunk, going around and making very simple legs. And the goal of this is so children can learn how to make patterns inside the elephant and to use a crayon resist, which we know is so magical for little kids. But listen, you will probably get three-legged elephants. And that's not the point. It doesn't matter if the elephant has 5 legs or if that trunk, looks like a leg. It's all about what happens next. And so you use the guided drawing to get to the second stage of the project. Here is an art project that's actually more of an observation and more using your imagination to draw a scene. And this is really for an older student, like 11 or even 12 years old, where they get to draw a scene of their choice using simple shapes, more elaborate shapes, but to use colored pencil. So the actual material, the medium, is the focus of the project. And in this case is how do you use a colored pencil to create value and contrast and texture. The texture in the grass, the value in the leaves, and all of the different variations of color from a single pack of colored pencils. I think it's brilliant. And then finally, your goal in teaching children art is not always about the elements of art or using a material. In this case, this particular project is based on Mr. Tiger Goes Wild book. It's a wonderful children's book. And this is not about the elements of art, and you could find almost every element of art in here, and it uses whatever kind of medium you want. It's a collage, but you know what the real focus is? It's emotion. It's learning how to draw facial expressions. And that is something children are so interested in, and they'll apply that knowledge to a lot of other lessons. You just try it, and they'll start adding emotions to different things, like even their portraits. So this particular lesson comes with a handout that you can give your 3rd grade students, which is the perfect age for this lesson, or 2nd grade, and they can learn how to draw the eyes and how do you draw the eyebrows to create an expression, anger or happiness or sorrow or confusion. And that's the essential question for this particular project. So my friends, if you're starting the school year and you're a little bit nervous about using guided drawings, or you're going to be judged for it and you're worried that they're all going to look the same and, dare I say, cookie cutter art, don't be. You are teaching so much through these projects. And your students, they're going to love it because you're meeting them where they're at, you're teaching them the foundations, and from the foundations comes endless possibilities. So I'd love to know if you use guided drawings, if you're a little bit hesitant about them, or if you're totally against it. I'd love to know why. And just let me know below. Thank you for watching.